We're all Americans, right? Or at least we all live in America currently.
Yeah.
So we're all perfectly aware of the concept of the American dream. And if we've grown up here, we might have even been taught that the American dream has been present in this country since its conception. But in fact, it was actually invented in the 1930s, or whenever it said in the reading that we recently did.
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to the Introduction to Ethics podcast. Today, we are talking about the American dream. So I'm sitting with my fellow Americans here, and we're gonna discuss what it means to us and what it means to other people. So let's go. Let's go down the line and introduce ourselves. I'm Alex, one of the hosts of the podcast.
I'm Elliot.
I'm Nay.
I'm Kenny.
And I'm Alyssa.
And we're gonna cover some topics about the American dream.
So, what does the American dream mean to you?
Yeah.
So to me, the American dream has always been this kind of like fantasy that people have, whether they grow up here or they move here from another country, where it's basically to work and live freely in a state of peace, and do what your dreams of working and what that means to you. So yeah, it's kind of just been like a fantasy that people have created about America that makes it seem like such a peaceful and where everybody gets along type of place.
Now, I noticed that you called it a fantasy in your description. Does that mean that you don't think of the American dream as something that's entirely real or attainable?
So I think that it might be attainable for a specific group of people. I think that a place where it's fully peaceful and everybody agrees on most topics and we're all just like there to support each other is great in theory, but in practice I don't think that it's actually attainable for the majority of the people that live here. It's just there's so much racism and in like systemic racism as well that just makes it not super attainable for the majority of the people that live here.
Can I just cut in and say that like that completely ties into when you think about its definition, like just by fact, like the concept that it's based on the fact that there's a notion that America has equality, and through that equality, anyone from any place in the world or from any sort of means, through hard work or dedication, etc., can make it, so to speak. Like inherently, if we are living in a nation where systemic oppression is a problem and it is a concept in which it's been founded upon, then how can you really say that there is equality to begin with? And so it's just not. It's just kind of nullifies the whole thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. For me, the American dream was something that I learned about growing up in school that justified why so many immigrants had come here over the last decades and centuries. And even though I was never an immigrant to the United States, I had family members, ancestors who had come here, and I accepted the American dream as the explanation for why they had come over. All of the opportunity that was available for them. But it seems that the American dream isn't achievable for everyone. And as I said, I grew up here. I was born here. The American dream was never something that I had to contrast in my life as opposed to a country that I came from. So why don't we look at some actual accounts from other people and see whether they believe in the American dream?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I asked a bunch of my friends and family and acquaintances some interview questions about what they thought about the American dream. And the interview questions were, give me 1 second to find it.
Okay, you can take your time putting that in the chat, but in the meantime, I'll read one of their responses to the questions that you asked. So the first screenshot here Brett Bankowski from Rochester Hills, who is a student and unemployed. He says, "I do believe in the American dream. It is still attainable. My American dream is succeeding financially and socially in the society we call America." So I find it interesting that hope is held in that regard. That even though these obstacles exist, it's still possible to work towards what someone can.
Yeah, I agree with what is his name?
Brett Bankowski, it's the first screenshot.
I believe what Brent is saying. I agree with it. Like, definitely trying to get your name out there and be economically stable for yourself is great. Like, trying to get your name out there in America. And it's also hard to do that. You gotta do that on social media and everything, and not all the platforms are great.
Oh yeah, social media has definitely taken a turn for the worse in recent years.
Yeah.
And that has definitely affected people's chances of success in the workplace. I can definitely see how it would impact someone's ability to achieve the American dream. Do you think that one group's success in the American dream is inherently detrimental to another's?
I think that it depends on the group that is achieving that dream. Say, for example, the CEO of a large company.
I do feel like, since I know these people, I feel like maybe like their background might have like something to do with it. Because Rochester Hills is an affluent area, and Brett is white, and you know what I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, of course.
so I feel like maybe like obviously to him it's very like attainable, and like I've worked with him.
Dude, it's actually insane when like with this whole shooting incident that's happened. I feel like it's resurfaced a lot of feelings for people where it's like, we'd like to think that we live in a meritocracy, and that's the idea in which the American dream, where if you put in all of this work and do what you can and whatever. And let's not even like begin to mention like more complicated ideas like systemic racism, in which we're like, you could be a black man from a poor neighborhood and work hard, but you don't have resources available to you. You don't have SAT tutors and regular tutors that like help you through school, and maybe you have to work another job to support yourself and your family, and you don't have the time to do extracurriculars that would help you get into college. That's just an example, but putting even just that aside, looking outside of those sorts of factors, going down to the basic human essentials when we're talking about healthcare. That guy, didn't he get diagnosed with like cancer and his coverage got denied? Imagine that. Imagine you worked hard your whole life and then you have some sort of illness. Maybe you get Crohn's disease or something, I don't know, something chronic. And now you have to get constant treatment. It puts you into crippling debt and it makes you unable to work. Now you are done. Where is your dream? It's
Right.
done. You're even if you overcome and you heal and you beat that illness, you are now in lifelong crippling debt. Goodbye house, goodbye car. You are now going to be dependent on the government,
Right.
and just in a bad position forever. And so it's like, there's so many things in this country where the truth is, if you don't have the means to support yourself, you can't really achieve all of this.
Yeah.
Which is inherently contradictory to the whole concept of like anyone can do it,
Yeah, exactly. Anyone can do it except if you can't.
I do want to like add, like, I remember like I met this one guy, and he had to like, I think he had like really like chronic migraines or something like that, and his medication every month was so expensive. Like that's what he was working. Like all his money was like going to like medication. Like what about his American dream? Like
he's not putting that into savings. It's not going to a 401k.
So another example that we have here is James from Canton. That's the state abbreviation for Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So James believes in the American dream. He thinks that it is attainable, you can pursue anything you set your mind to, even though it is mad difficult at times. Understandable. His American dream is to work and make money, eventually buying a home and maybe having children. IDK, haven't decided on that fully, TBH. Yeah, that's reasonable. I think that's pretty similar to what a lot of people want when they're pursuing the American dream. Just being able to build their own lives and have it be free of whatever they left their original country to avoid. Like we learned in a lot of our readings that people are escaping political unrest or other mistreatment. So being able to come here and pursue the American dream is pursuing peace.
This one is from Rin from Charlotte, North Carolina. He's a chef, owner, entrepreneur. He says, yes, I believe in the American dream, very much attainable for hard workers or lucky people with talent. I'm living my dream. I own a karaoke bar and a restaurant.
It's awesome that he's achieved that. I will point out, though, the parentheses in
But,
this, or lucky people with talent. I think
I know.
that's some
wanna
useful
add,
commentary.
I do want to add, like, Ren used to, like, babysit me, and he's like in his 50s now, right? And he didn't, like, attain any of this until, like, his 50s. Like, up until then, like, he didn't even have a car until recently. And he kept, like, going from, like, couch surfing and stuff like that. But, like, it was attainable, but it took him, like, 50 years. So,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, I guess it's attainable, but, like, that was a lot of hard work. And I want it now. Like, I don't want to wait until I'm 50.
Exactly, yeah. Like, we used to retire when we were 50, and, like, now that we're 50, we finally get our dream. That's pretty crazy. And it's funny that he says lucky people with talent, because I feel like talent can only get you so far in today's world where, you know, degrees are everything, and people won't even look at your, like, portfolio if you don't have a certain degree for certain jobs. Even though schooling is so expensive and just getting more expensive, and financial aid is sometimes, like, people aren't even eligible for financial aid, so they just have to pay, you know, out of pocket.
So Natalie from Michigan, resident physician, I think the American dream is a myth because it isn't attainable for truly anyone if you consider the increasing cost of living and the cost of education. The gender gap disparities, not everyone is truly equal here. My American dream was becoming a doctor, which I did achieve, but I'm still finishing my training. So I thought that one was interesting because she did become a doctor, like she wanted to.
Yeah.
I think the biggest issue was like how much like the student debt was.
Right. Especially for careers like that where you have to go through so much schooling and then it just piles and piles up. It makes it harder for you to, when you finally have your dream, you also are carrying this mound of debt with you as well that you got to pay off.
Yeah, and like you don't really know when you might like pay it off.
Exactly.
Like it can be like never, like you can be like in your 50s and still paying it off.
Exactly. I was taking a look at this interview that we did from Hannah Curry, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Where is that one?
She's from Michigan. She works at Walt Disney World, and she says the American dream is very hard to grasp. It's doable, but extremely difficult, which defeats the whole purpose. The American dream feels more like a nightmare to most people, and I can say the same. It no longer feels attainable. My American dream is simply just a happy way of living, owning my own house, starting a family, and having a stable job. However, a dream like this is very hard to attain in this day and age. I think it's interesting that she says it is... Oh gosh, I've lost it. Hold on. I think it's interesting that she says it's extremely difficult, which defeats the whole purpose, which I definitely agree with, because it's just, you know, getting harder and harder to see that dream and be able to chase after it, which is what the whole thing was supposed to be about, that it was like everyone can do it. Everyone, like, you just, you know, you work hard, you could do it. But now it's like, it just feels so far away.
Yeah, and I feel like everything's being really expensive. Like the McChicken's like almost $4. And It's
You
just
know
like
you
it's
got a
like
flawed system when the McChicken is $4.
what happens to the McChicken. But yeah, I feel like everything seemed like really expensive, and that could like make the American dream harder for like some people,
Yeah,
or even harder for like people already like trying to attain it.
exactly.
I think it really could be said that the American dream is definitely alive, but it's definitely up for debate if it's actually attainable, you know?
Right.
Even though it's not possible for everyone to achieve their American dream, and while it's very probable that going forward, even fewer people will be able to achieve this, we should keep working to make sure that more people in the future are able to achieve their American dreams. Because the only thing that keeps the American dream alive is our ability to support it as citizens. We need to make sure that we vote for the policies that allow us to live. All right, that concludes our podcast on the introduction to ethnic studies in regards to the American dream. I hope you enjoyed listening.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.